Well, this feels a little bit like deja vu. We were just talking to you about this fight in July.
Yep. Like what is that, a couple months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we already heard from him what happened, but what did you hear in the moment? What were your thoughts when you heard the fight was off?
So got on the scale, weighed in, went back to sit down, waiting for medicals, started rehydrating. I would say maybe 5 minutes went by. It was pretty quickly after I got off the scale. Got a call from Ali, and he's like, "How you feeling? How you doing?" I thought he was just calling me to, because I had just gotten off the scale and like just to check in. And I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm rehydrating, whatever." He didn't even realize that I weighed in yet. And then the very next thing he said was, "Hey, your brother, your fight is off." And I'm like, "What? Why?" And then he's like, "Oh, I guess he had a staph infection," which I was like, "I don't care. Like, I'll fight him. It's staph. Like, it's not a big deal." And he's like, "Nah, the commission won't let you. This, that, whatever." The very next question he asked was, would August 10th be okay to rebook it? Which I believe at that time was 2 to 3 weeks away. And I was like, sooner the better. If we could fight next week or the week after that, that'd be great. He's like, "Okay, let me work on this." So now thought process is like, damn, like I just went through that weight cut, all of that for nothing now. So I went directly to like the production team, the blue shirts, and I just let them know, like, I was like, "Hey, I don't know if you guys have heard this yet, but my fight is off, so I'm gonna dip if that's all right with you guys." And they're like, "Oh, just let us confirm." So they confirmed with whoever they had to, and sure enough, they're like, "Okay, yeah, we just got word. He didn't clear medicals. You can go." And then I spoke to Ali again. He called me back a little while later, and he's like, "Oh, he said no to August 10th," and I was like, "Okay, what and like when?" And he's like, "All right, well, let me work on it." And it's a fight I really like, opponent I really like, so I wanted to keep the fight. Obviously, also I went through an entire training camp preparing for this specific opponent. I don't want that to go to waste. And then anyhow, it was a few days had gone by. He called me back and he was like, "Okay, we rebooked the fight, this and that, and the date is October the 12th." And I'm like, "Dude, now we're gonna go through a full camp again." I didn't understand it, but it is what it is. I guess God's plan, here we are now, October 12th.
He mentioned that he DM'd you afterwards and apologized
He
and
did,
said,
yeah.
did he explain to you why not August? Because I didn't know that August was on the table. That's interesting that he wouldn't accept August. Do you know what the
Yeah.
reason was?
No clue. I didn't want to. Honestly, I have no issues with him. It is what it is. Everything happened the way it happened, and we're here now. But obviously, I was frustrated with it. I was pretty irritated. It ruined some things planning wise, that I had planned right after. For instance, my brother-in-law had gotten married on August 10th, and we were supposed to stay in Hawaii a little bit longer. We're gonna island hop, go see, like, my family and my wife's family is spread out throughout Hawaii. So we're gonna go. The wedding was on Maui. We're gonna go to Big Island, where a majority of my family is. We're also gonna go to Oahu, where we also have family. Like take our kids and whatnot, yada yada. Obviously, I had to get right back and get to camp, so that put a dent in things there. So yeah, I was irritated. I didn't want to reach out to him and ask him like, "Hey, why this, why that?" He had his reasons. He already said no to it. So it is what it is. I don't know. I kind of feel like he had something else going on, and yeah, because I just don't see it. Like, I've never had a crazy staph infection, but I just cannot see staph taking you out for 3 months or whatever it was. But that's something you guys are gonna have to ask him.
Well, we already had him, so now we got to ask him
Yeah.
after if. But he mentioned that it was just a scratch. Like, he doesn't think it was actually staph, so that was interesting.
So even worse, like, if it's just a scratch, why couldn't we fight? To the August 10th. But whatever.
So when you have a fight like this where you've already done a full fight camp and now you're going to have to do, like you said, another full fight camp, do you do anything different? Do you get that extra time? Do you figure out something new? Do you change up a game plan? Do you learn something more about him?
I don't think so. Like, my team and I were pretty diligent in, researching opponents and coming up with the game plan. So the opponent. The only thing that changed was the date. Everything else is exactly the same. The weight, everything. The opponent. It all stays the same. Location. Nothing changes. So honestly, it was just more about making sure that going from me having to fight him on July 20th, going right back into camp, making sure that I didn't overdo it, and it would be like I'm in camp for like 5 or 6 months, which is crazy. So I had to make sure I took some time off, let my body, my mind rest and recover, which I did, and then get back to work, which we did, and went through another camp, and camp went great. So here we are.
And when you weigh in like that and then the fight falls through and it's not something that's your fault, do you get paid for that or do you have to just scrap it like it didn't happen?
Oh, yeah, that would have been rough. I would have been really pissed off. No, the UFC was kind. They compensated me. And obviously I would rather have gotten the fight and got my fight purse. But, they did at least do that for me, so thank you to them.
And going into this fight, do you see anything going to, like, now that you've sat around for 5 months, are you envisioning anything different for the fight?
Nah, like I said, it's the same guy, same weight, same place, same everything. Just the date is different. So I see it. Nothing has changed for me.
Is there any fear that this could happen again with him?
Oh, definitely. I don't think it will, but it's in the back of my mind. The funniest thing was after I had finished my final part of my weight cut on Friday morning, was at July 19th. We were driving here. Me and Devin were driving here, and I was thinking because I had been asked. You guys had asked me about like this being the with this fight it'll be the most fights in UFC middleweight history, this and that. And then so I kind of like pondered that, and I was thinking like your mind likes to do torturous things to you, and I was like, well, technically, even if I weigh in and for some reason the fight doesn't happen, I'm not there yet, and then just that little thought in my head, and then boom, get here a couple hours later and fight's off, and I'm like, why did I have to think that?
So I guess you won't feel comfortable until you're actually in there and the door closes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like once we're on our way, once I get here on Saturday, I'll be pretty confident that the fight is going.
Thank you.
Who's in the corner this weekend?
Ray, Eric, Devin.
I just wanted your thoughts on the middleweight division, and who do you think should fight next? Obviously you're probably going to pick Sean.
Yeah, Sean and Dricus, or Dricus defends against Sean. I don't think this is me being biased because myself, Dana White included, all felt like Sean won that first initial fight. So I was actually kind of surprised that he didn't get especially with Dana coming out and saying like, oh yeah, I felt like Strickland won that fight, that he didn't get the immediate rematch, but is what it is. Keeps, the bus keeps going. But right now, I think that Sean deserves it.
Looking back at your fight with Dricus, and I know Dana said that he fights like a white guy dancing. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, Dricus is one of those guys. I've said it before. Is like he doesn't. It doesn't look like it's supposed to work, but he makes it work. And credit to him for that. It might not be the cleanest, prettiest, this or that, but he gets the job done. Like look at all his fights. Like they asked me about it before, and I'm like, you know what? Honestly, like everything that tells me when he fought Izzy, I was like, everything tells me that Israel's gonna win this fight, but I just have this feeling like, and I will not be surprised one bit if Dricus pulls it off. And then as the fight went on, Izzy started kind of taking over, and then here comes Dricus and gets it done, gets the stoppage. So that guy is champion for a reason.
With you being in the cage with him and you were doing very good against him, how does he keep winning? How does he look? He's just so dominant. He's on a really good run right now. Like
yep.
How being a fighter, being a middleweight, how does he keep doing it?
I think it's just I think it's his heart and his belief in himself, and he just you can never take it just doesn't seem like the fight, no matter how it goes, is ever out of him. He's always there. Like he might look like, oh, he's about to gas out, and he doesn't. It looks like, oh, it's going downhill for him, and then he comes back and wins. Like, you know, so I think, you know, he's proved he's champion for a reason.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
You're not the first fighter that we've heard say like fighting with staff doesn't seem to be as big a deal to them as we on the outside. Is that because it's maybe more prevalent in MMA and maybe a lot of fights than
Yeah.
more people know? And is it because it sounds like you've never had one of the really serious like
Yeah.
versions of it on you?
Yeah, so I've never had like a super serious staph infection to where I've had to take antibiotics or anything. But I've had like ingrown hairs that when they look at it, they're like, oh, that's like that could turn into staph or whatever. So just put Neosporin on it, whatever, you know. So I was like, oh, okay. So I've never dealt with it to that extent. I've seen some pretty crazy ones. I don't know if you guys remember Kevin Randleman back in the day.
It was like a hole. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
he had like a hole in his arm or under. But yeah, I see it all the time. I see a lot of my training partners get staph, and they're back in the gym in no time, and it doesn't seem like it really takes anything out of them. And, you know, so yeah, I didn't think that him having staph was a big deal. I would have gladly fought him with the staph. I wouldn't care. I would have took a shower after. I think I would have been fine.
And I was going to say, definitely understand the commission that once they're made aware, they have to, you know, draw a line and say nothing else. But going forward, or maybe if there was ever a possibility, do you think if the fighters talked about it and if the fighters agreed to it, that the fight should be allowed? Or is there, I mean, I don't know, but is there a problem of possible contamination if they just get into the octagon that other fighters could be affected?
I feel like if the two fighters agree that 100% it should be let go, or let the fight should be let continue. But I think if they're like, oh, a matter of we could get this bacteria on the canvas and somebody else could get it, as long as everybody is made aware and almost like ask them like, hey, you okay fighting with knowing this or whatever, like the whole card or whatever. And if somebody's like that much of a pussy about it, like, no, I don't want to get staph possibly. I don't know, it's staph, you know? Like, I could see if they're like, oh, this guy has AIDS, then I'll be like, whoa, yes, negative. I ain't fighting this dude.
Yeah.
But I don't know, staph infection. I don't watch. I'm sure somebody's going to hear this and hit me with some, well, did you know that 10,000 people died from staph infection? Like, fuck, all right.
Just going back to Park, and I appreciate that answer. Tell me, I mean, where do you see the main dangers with him? Is it his striking? Is it his ability to get the fight down on the ground? Where do you see the biggest challenges for him?
I think he's very well-rounded and puts MMA together well. I don't think he's like a specialist or an expert anywhere. And obviously, he doesn't have the kickboxing or boxing accolades, the wrestling, or even like the jiu-jitsu. But he does put them all together well. Like he's a very complete MMA fighter. I think honestly his biggest attribute is his toughness.
Yep.
It's just how tough he is. You know, like I've watched him in fights and where you think like, oh, okay, this guy is done, and he pulls it out. You know, very very similar to a Dreykus, but I don't think he's nowhere near as like dangerous as like a Dreykus.
And both your guys' style, you guys are definitely more inclined to just stand in the middle of the cage and throw hands. Do you envision that's pretty much what the fight's going to be? You guys just throwing bombs out in the middle?
I would hope so, but honestly, I think that, you know, he's going to want to go to the ground where he feels like he has his best advantage. But if it ends up being a kickboxing match, I'll take that all day.
Yeah. And just, I guess, a Vegas question last night. They imploded the Tropicana. Did you stay up and watch that? Or
I did not, but my brother caught it on camera. He watched it. He stayed up for it, and I guess it was like a whole spectacle. He actually just showed it to me on our ride here.
It was pretty incredible, the fireworks and everything.
The fireworks. He said there was a drone show. Yeah. I was like, it would be Vegas to make a whole spectacle. Hey, we're going to blow up this building. Here's a show.
Yeah, right. Best of luck on Saturday.
We good? Yep.